All right.
I'm happy to have another young Indian with me in this Voice of the Young segment. Hello, everyone. Good to be back. Right now, we have with us Sparsh Maheshwari. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Sparsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mathu, for inviting me, for sharing my journey and my views around some of the policies that I care about. I'll start with I was born and brought up in a small town called Hathras in Uttar Pradesh, then went on to do engineering in Rajasthan. Realized very quickly, very soon into like a couple of semesters, that engineering is not for me. And then I was volunteering with this organization called National Service Scheme, where I used to teach children and sort of work with them, work with their parents to ensure that they are doing well in schools. So that was sort of my initial foray into the social sector, but I never thought of it as a full-time career option. So leaving all that, keeping it to just volunteering, I decided after my undergrad, I decided to join Novartis, a pharma company, as an analyst. Again, the second time, very soon, and a couple of months into working in my first job, I realized, no, this is not something that's for me. Also, so then I really thought about, okay, what is something that I can do for the next 35, 40 years? And then I came across ISDM, which is the Indian School of Development Management, which was fairly new. It was just in its second year, but to me, it seemed like a perfect mix of what I wanted to do in terms of management. I wanted to do some management, but I also wanted to do something meaningful,
Mhm.
contribute meaningfully. So that seemed to me like a perfect mix of development management, right? Management, but for the social sector. So I decided to join that, and that completely changed my life trajectory. That 1 year was just amazing with the kind of people that I met, the kind of colleagues, peers. The cohort was amazing. Professors, lecturers, practitioners who used to come and talk to us. That was just amazing. That opened up a whole new world for me. And then I decided, okay, I think this I'm really enjoying it, so why not continue it for a couple of years at least to figure out if I can actually work in the sector. So I decided to leave the corporate sector for a while and then decided to go into the social sector. Fortunately, I applied into fellowship. So first was Government of Haryana Chief Minister Fellowship, which I got in and worked in the district of Hisar with the collector and other government officials. That was also I think, great experience trying to understand how policies and schemes of the government get implemented on the ground. Um, so that was great. And then it was a 1 year fellowship. So then once the fellowship was over, I applied into another fellowship, with this time at the central government with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Fortunately, I got in there as well. And that was a 2 year fellowship. So I worked across various demographics that are covered by Ministry of Social Justice, for example, SCs, OBC, victims of substance abuse, transgenders, people who are engaged in the act of begging, elderly. So there's this all sort of demographics that the ministry caters to. So I think I got a fairly comprehensive idea of different sectors and different areas and different themes. So again, that was a really nice experience. I traveled a lot. It was during COVID, but we used to traveled all over the country to talk to NGOs, to talk to people who were implementing ministry's policies. And then after that, it was again a 2 year fellowship, and then decided, okay, what next? So I was applying for jobs here and there, but I think working with the government sort of for 3 years was helped me or convinced me that any large scale social change has to come from the government. I mean, NGOs, corporates, all of them are important in their own way, and they all help us grow. But I think any large scale social change has to come from government policies and laws. So with that in mind, I decided to take a more global approach. I decided to come here for masters, pursuing a dual degree, so in non-profit leadership plus social policy and data analytics. Social policy and data analytics, I also chose because I thought that it's really important that um, um evidence-based decisions are made for our policies, and not, just based on some anecdote or something that you hear or something that you observe. So I think currently I'm in my master's, and the idea is, the hope is, or the aim is to, help non-profits, government, various think tanks, research organizations help make I can help if I can help them make better decisions, better policy decisions. So yeah, this was my journey till now.
So what was that college in Rajasthan that you went to?
So I went to BITS Pilani,
Ah,
and I did electrical and electronics.
you've
Uh,
actually finished there.
yeah, I complete. I yes, I although though I was initially, a couple of semesters I didn't like it, but
Ah,
I didn't drop out. I didn't drop out because I had fortunately I had other things that I could go to, instead of, if I didn't like this, I could volunteer and I could, be with friends, and I could do some extra projects there as well. So I think that kept me in the college.
okay. And where is this ISDM located?
So this ISDM is in Noida.
Okay.
Yeah, Noida sector 62, if I remember correctly, and it started in 2017.
Okay.
Mine was the second batch, so it's almost now in its seventh or eighth year. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And where in the US are you currently?
I'm currently studying at University of Pennsylvania in the School of Social Policy and Practice, which is located in Philadelphia, the
Okay.
city of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Then how did you, when did you get to the US?
So I came to the US 1.5 years ago.
Oh, one.
So fall of, like, summer of 2023.
Okay.
20, summer of 2022, summer of 2022.
So now you are pretty much a veteran here, right?
Yeah. Well, not so much 1.5 years. People have been here for so long and
Yeah.
still, miss India and,
Yeah.
all of that. But yeah, I think it wasn't so difficult for me to get accustomed to the US because, for one, I had lived outside of home since 2010. So I'd already lived in various places for like last past 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And then I also had a lot of friends who had gone already for masters, for higher education, for jobs. So I had
Yeah.
some idea about the US. So it
Okay.
was
All right. So, and you're pretty close to finishing now, I guess. 6 months.
six
One
months.
semester
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
last semester, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So, what are your plans?
Yeah, so I have to do an internship in the summer. So I've been applying for internships, and of course, just after internship, I'll graduate. So I'm also looking for jobs. The areas that I'm looking at and I think we spoke about during our chat in the LinkedIn, is something that I've been fascinated about, this idea of universal basic income or unconditional cash transfers.
Yeah.
This a little bit of background how I got into this area of researching, or getting fascinated by this idea, is I was just browsing YouTube and I came across a TED talk by Rutger Bregman with the title "Poverty is not a lack of character; it's a lack of cash."
Hmm.
And that really hit me in terms of how we think about poverty. We think about poverty and poor people as something that is their own fault. That is because they are not working, they are lazy, so that's why they are poor. And all the money, we privileged people who have made money and all of that, it is because of our efforts and our hard work, totally. So I think that really challenged that idea. And then when I was working with ministry, Mr. Mathur, I was working on this scheme, making this policy a scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of people engaged in the act of begging. So people who were on the streets, trying to get some money for the survival, and unfortunately, beggary is criminalized in India, to the Prevention of Begging Act, Bombay. Um, and that's unfortunate. People who are just merely there for survival, um, uh, and they are being considered criminals. So anyway, I digress. But the idea was that we will build shelter homes for these people who are on the streets, and then we will bring them in and we will train them to some skills in the hope that they will find some job and they will be self-sustaining. And I found a couple of problems with that idea. First, in terms of, it's not like this hasn't been tried before. We have so many skill development programs and all of that, and there is not clear evidence that they work as efficiently as some other programs. So that was one. The second was this, in terms of implementation. In terms of implementation, shelter homes, they it's not like all of them don't have a home, all of them are homeless. Some people have do have homes, like small jhuggi in slums, but they come back. So you can't always. And then what about the family? How will you bring them in? What about men shelter home, women shelter home? So there all these
Yeah.
logistics problems. And then the cost. The final thing was, I think the cost really sort of, all this government is all of our money, all of taxpayer money, and they are building these shelter homes with I think the cost one shelter home was around 50 lakhs or something, and then the skill development, all this logistics, all these costs, and I'm not accounting for the time that goes into thinking about of the bureaucrats' time, of the young consultants like us time. I'm not
Yeah.
even I'm not even accounting for that. And I did some back of the envelope calculation, and we were spending almost 1 lakh per person a year to in the hope that they will come out of beggary and be self-sustainable, which is around 8,000, 8,500 a month. And even after that, there is no guarantee that the person will continue because you don't know what skills they have, whether they'll get a job and all of this follow-ups, all of this
Mm,
cost, even
mm,
we didn't account for. So it's
mm,
probably more than a lakh per month. And I was thinking if we just, give them cash, around 8,500 a month, or maybe a lump sum cash. And we know now after the give directly is study that lump sum works better than a monthly transfer. They can build their own stall. They can start a small business. They can do so many things. They can, if they're sick, they can send their children to educate for education. There's so many things that they have the freedom to do whatever they would want to do. And of course, this idea when says the questions like, oh, they will spend money on booze and drinking and alcohol, and all of that stuff. They will waste money. They don't know how to use the money and all of that. Initially, I was also hesitant, but the more I read about, the more I researched, and it's been almost 2.5 years that I've been, continuously researching and reading about this idea, the more I'm convinced that that is not the case. And the research shows that. I'm not saying it's just because I have,
yeah.
some idea in my mind.
Yeah.
The research is overwhelmingly in
Yeah.
favor of unconditional cash transfers.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it's just fascinating to me, this all these myths. So I think what as a challenge, the challenge for this policy is more about policy communication, right? How do we communicate to people, to the larger public,
Mm.
that this is a better use of your money, not anyone else's money. This is a better use of your money than
Mm.
what currently has been doing. So, yeah, this was,
It's a tough fight ahead.
yeah, yeah,
It's a tough
definitely.
fight ahead because
I I tried. I mean, when I was sort of leaving them, when I was in the last few months of the ministry, I was talking to the secretary of the ministry, joint secretary. Everyone trying to sort of convince them to because it's the whole beggary budget. The budget in that particular scheme was more than 100 crores, and I was just sort of trying to convince them that please give 1 crore for a pilot, and you keep the 99 crores. You do whatever you want to do, build shelter homes and all of that. Let's have a pilot with just 1 crore, and then we can compare. You
yeah.
know what is the outcome after an year of people who we just gave money. The 1 crore money would be divided into, let's say 100 people, a lakh per person, and then you do your thing. So, but I mean, of course, it was very late. I couldn't convince, and all of these myths. So it's a as you rightly said, it's a long and tough fight. I also want to mention here. So, Give Directly is an organization which pioneered the sort of cash transfer space. It
Mm.
has already distributed more than $700 million, um, mostly in Africa because it's the poorest region in the world. But very recently, I was connected with this organization called Project Deep, which is Deep is a short form for Devising an End to Poverty. And they have it is India's first non-profit which is dedicated to unconditional cash transfers. And they have done their first program in Krishnapur, which is a village in Maharashtra, and their second program, I think, is in Sada, which is village in Rajasthan, and they're trying to expand all of that. And their baseline survey to midline survey, the results have been very positive. People have bought different things. They have constructed homes. They have invested in farming, getting new tools. So there has been hardly any case of people misusing the money. So this idea that people will misuse the money, I think that myth needs to be broken, and through all these pilots and studies, we can certainly do that. And then their endline survey, which is going to be in May of this year. So I think I'm very excited and eager look at their results as well. So another thing, one last thing that I want to mention is this: the idea has been gaining a lot of momentum in the past decade or so, like past 8 to 10 years. The idea is not new. There have been US has the negative income tax, earned income tax credit, the child tax credit. All of these are essentially some sort of cash transfer, but these are not unconditional or universal. But these are cash transfers. But this idea of unconditional universal basic income has come gained a lot of momentum in the past 10 years, and especially during COVID, when people were giving US gave a lot of stimulus checks, which really helped people who were desperate in need of some of those checks. It's more efficient, it's more dignified. You are not telling, we as government or non-profits are not being patronizing or condescending in terms of, oh, we know what's best for you, right? So you should only use this money for this, only we'll give. So I think philosophically also, I align with the idea that people know what's best for them, we should trust them, and it's more dignified in that sense. So yeah, it's gaining momentum. It's an exciting space, I would say. It's an exciting space to be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a very passionate exposition of an idea. It's been around for quite some time, but good that you are pushing it and finding that there's a lot of pushback. Anything else you want to tell us?
In terms of, so yeah, I told about why I think UBI is a great idea. Why I think it's one of the best ways, I think, currently to reduce poverty. Along with, and again, this is not to say that we should give away with all those other schemes, and they are important schemes, important policies. But I think a lot of schemes with a lot of loopholes and a lot of leakages. I think with idea, maybe we can combine some of those and just give them as cash. And of course, there are in the context of India, there are a lot of other challenges in terms of how do you implement cash, right? Because people don't have smartphones, how will do the bank account, they don't have bank accounts still. A lot of, I mean, it's improving, the smartphone penetration, the bank account, Jandhan accounts, all of these are good schemes and it's improving, but still a long way to go. Right, so implementation is a concern, is a challenge. But so that those are some interesting challenges in the context of India, but nothing that cannot be solved for if the political and administrative will is there to reduce poverty. Yeah.
It's my general rule not to pose questions and tough questions in these Vidpeds, but I'll pose one to you because
Sure,
you are
sure.
so passionate and
Yeah.
so knowledgeable. Okay. Recently, there are reports that employers are not able to get low wage workers in big cities. Those who are paying low, okay?
Yeah.
And that's because the potential workers don't want to leave come back from the village. And one reason they don't want to come back from the village, of course, is that life was pretty harsh in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But a second reason is that they do get some form of cash availability now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some income coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's some income coming, then you would rather work there. So it's not a question of lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a question of lazy at
Yeah.
all. It's a question of the location of the work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So whether since you have some income and you can find some additional work where you are, then why go to the city? And so the the low paying industrial manufacturing workers in big cities, they
Mm-hmm.
are facing problem of
Challenge. Yeah.
wages. So
Yeah.
were you aware of this?
I was not directly aware of this, but in a similar fashion, I had heard of these arguments sort of in terms of in the context of the US, because the momentum is again a large. There are a lot more pilots, a lot more organizations working here. This idea that small businesses and even larger businesses, manufacture, are not able to get these people on board, so they are not getting people at low wages, which I now think of it is so funny. I mean, it's basically you're saying in a way, euphemistically, in a good way, that now we're not able to exploit our workers.
Well,
It's
that's true. But their point is, okay, I'm not going to have a debate with you. That's not
yeah,
my point.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that the situation in the US is not working versus working. In India, it is working in which location?
Yes.
Okay, so if they are going to
Mhm.
be working to some extent in the village, or
Mhm.
are they going to work? Because the amount of money flowing is not enough to sustain.
Yeah, so I think one way is to increase the wages. I think if you're not able to get low wages, maybe try and see if you can increase the wages for people come have give them good enough wage so that they're not living in harsh conditions in the city in a small I was sometimes I speak to some of the guards when I was in India, and the conditions that they live in, from many of them come from UP, Bihar, Odisha, and other states. Pathetic conditions that they live in. They get just 10,000 rupees in Noida. It's a big city, and they have to send some money home. They have to survive. So one way is you increase the wages, and this idea that companies can't afford or to increase the wages, I disagree, because the CEO wages, the administrator, the who are in the higher level of the company's organization, their wages have been increasing by a lot compared to the median worker. So yeah, I would ask them to take a pay cut
Right.
and subsidize wages, if you because they are the one workers are the one because of which that you're able to manufacture something. The second thing is, if someone is able to be with their family in village and work from there and be an entrepreneur, that is not only good for them, but it's also good for the local economy. You don't want a lot of small congestion in a very few urban spaces, right? You want everyone, local economy to
Mm,
thrive and all of that, because then it's an urban planning problem as well. The everyone's moving to cities, and which leads to slums, which leads to inequality. So I don't see this, and thank you for this question. I think this is really important. A lot of people do ask me this as well, but my answer would be yes. It's. I don't see this as a problem at all. If people are in their own villages with their family, working there as an entrepreneur, having a small business,
mm,
the solution to that is not. And the solution is not to that is not to stop giving them cash so that they can work in the urban area and work for low wages and be exploited. And the solution is to have laws, proper labor laws, implementation of labor laws, so they get paid decently, so that they have an incentive to work.
mm,
And companies should look a little beyond profit now. Making look the profitability is important. I'm not saying profitability is not important, but profit at the cost of what?
mm.
Profit at the cost of workers, profit at the cost of environment. I think companies should start looking beyond that. And some companies are doing that, but there's still way to go. Yeah, hope that
Okay, all
answers
right.
it.
Anything else? Any tips for young people that you have? I mean, you stumbled your way across the world, like it seems. So,
Yeah,
can you tell others how they could stumble along like you?
yeah. I mean, yeah, it was such a coincidence. Never planned for to be in this sector. Series of things happened, and as you said, I stumbled upon it. But I think it's important. One thing that I always tried. I mean, it was a lot of luck, but I think I always sort of tried to explore different areas. I was willing to take some risks. Right. So for example, leaving a decently paying like job, a corporate job, which like grow good growth aspects, to come into a new school, which is just 2 years old. No one had heard about it. To explore something. I think that is one. Then coming to the US, that is also a sort of, in some sense, a risk in terms of engineering and MBA. If you do an engineering and MBA, a lot of people come from engineering and MBA because there are ample opportunities for engineering and MBA, but not so much as especially if you're an international student for policy or non-profit leadership. But yeah, that is also a risk that I take, because I thought of myself, okay, what I really want to do, what will I really be happy working for and with. So I think that is really important for. So to answer your question, my advice would be key, don't be, take calculated risks. So again, I'm not saying like just don't leave everything, and so all of these are calculated risks. Take calculated risks, and try and explore different things. If you will not explore different things, how will you know what you like? If you're just, if I would have been in engineering, and then did my master's, PhD, like all of that, in that sense, without exploring anything else, I wouldn't have stumbled. So explore different things, meet new people, talk to new people, talk to different people. To Yeah, I think that's how you will know what do you really like. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Anything else you want to add here?
No, I think I wanted to share a little bit about my journey, a little bit about universal basic income, an idea that I'm really passionate
Okay.
about and want to work towards, and
Yeah.
then some advice. So I think thank you for this opportunity, Dr.
All
Mathur.
right. Okay. Maybe we'll catch up with you 1 year from now to see where
Of
you
course,
are and what you are doing. Till
of
then, let's
course.
say bye to the viewers. Bye, everybody. I'll
Bye,
be back
everyone.
with another young person or an expert soon. Bye till then. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.